I welcome you to the Education Next podcast. So happy to have you here finally. And I've been always blown away with all the amazing programs you do in Bansko and all that I hear about your garden and how kids visit your amazing garden and they get to learn so much. Please introduce yourself to our audience and tell us more about your work.
Oh, thank you for having me, Frank. And it's been ages since we've been talking, and now finally we're in a space together, which is great. And so thank you for having me. Yes, I'm Michelle, and I live in a Biddim, which is a village here, approximately half an hour from Bansko's town. And the little village that I live in is 1,200, I think it's 1,208 meters high. So it's much higher than Bansko. And of course, there's a lot of programs already happening in Bansko with the homeschooling. There's established home community or homeschooling community there already that's very active and very involved with each other and quite progressive. But here in the mountain, I've realized that I needed to create, or just felt like I needed to create a space where kids could be more free, especially those kids who are traveling with their parents around the world, and 3 months here, 3 months there. And it's not necessarily unsettling, but when they come here, they have an opportunity to really ground. And I think that grounding ability through the garden, through projects, through craft, through just, learning through play, learning through life. And so I don't regard myself as a teacher. In fact, the kids don't even regard me as an adult. Um, so I just regard myself maybe just as a facilitator. So if there's a need, then I kind of create that space, and then there's an autonomy that happens with the kids where you set the scene, you give them the ingredients, and then you kind of stand back.
I think I'm sure I can, the moment you talk, I can literally imagine the kind of space that you would have built and kids there and not having a teacher student relationship and more like, you're just there, right? Facilitating things, being around, talking to them, maybe creating that environment for curiosity where kids can just be themselves. I think that is the most important thing because I'm sure that everyone understands that all of us are so different, and now more than anything we need spaces where we can be ourselves more than anyone, right? We don't have to have be in the race, or we don't have to copy someone, and it's not that you are faster than me or that I am smarter than you. It's more like, hey, I can just be myself. And I'm sure there must be various instances in the garden that you have created. You're also doing something interesting with special needs kids. So would you like to tell us more about it?
Oh, I mean, it's the downtime tours and the special needs program is really born out of the sort of provision for the homeschooling. It's this philosophy of freedom, and the philosophy of freedom is to give somebody the potential for individuation, to be themselves, and to have freedom of choice. And what I've noticed I have a stepson who's 23, and he thrives in that environment, where there's not a lot of static, there's not a lot of digital. Yes, of course, we have a 4.5G tower, in the village, which is pinging amazingly strong internet connection. But there is a quality of stillness and the quality of air here and access to farm animals. And in the facility, there's half an hour away from us, there's a farm there for horse riding. We can quad bike. There's thermal springs, mineral bars and things quite close. And so there's opportunity, just witnessing how Oliver, my stepson, thrives, and then creating this invitation for others to come and experience. And whether that is with key workers and carers coming with adults with special needs, particularly autism, or what I really want to do as well is get parents to say, come and have fun with your child who has autism, because a lot of parents, they don't know how to connect. Or even my own husband, and he won't be upset for me to share this with you, but he was initially uncomfortable around people with special needs before we had his son. So I think, there's an opportunity here for somebody, a parent, to come on holiday with their kid, go quad biking, horse riding, walking, cooking in the forest, or having some art therapy sessions. I think there's an amazing opportunity here to really connect with each other.
The things that you said, it sounds so therapeutic. I mean, with you can imagine being yourself in the mountain and you have a mineral bath option. It itself is so therapeutic, and then being able to even have a nice walk, which you don't get right in crowded cities, and hence I think you can clearly see how that stress, you know pulls you down, because you have a job to manage, you have the city sound, the crowd, and then you have to hustle yourself to get to work, and then you have to drop your kids to uh, the centers, and you hardly get time to connect. And I think that's where the option of traveling with kids comes in, where if you come out of the system and you can travel with kids, and especially um, you get to a space, and like Bansko, where already families are practicing that kind of learning. And then on top of that, you have the cherry there with Michelle, where you encourage that learning, where if I have a child with special need, and I can just go and talk to you and understand, hey, how can I get make these things better? And I think it's just, I feel it's like a cherry on top of everything that Bansko already has, right? What would you say about families bringing their kids to Bansko and experiencing such things, right? And how do you think will their lives improve from what they are living?
Well, I think massively. I think, Bansko, yes, in some regards, it's like a ski resort town, and people think, oh, maybe it's not proper Bulgaria. And it's right in probably, saying that it's not really representation of Bulgaria itself. But Bansko is unique in the fact that it has so much to offer in terms of amazing community, homeschooling community already. And when the world schoolers and the homeschoolers get to integrate and meet, there's such rich content and sharing that takes place. And then you've got nature, you've got access to the mountain, you've, as I mentioned earlier, with the mineral pools and the horse riding experiences. A lot of the time in other countries, I know for the UK especially, there's so much red tape in regarding to risk assessment and what people can do. And so, I'm not saying there's no rules in Bulgaria or Bansko, but I'm just saying there is enough there in terms of educating your one's children in a rich way, a truly rich way. If you're looking for a music teacher, there'll be somebody who can help you, you'll teach your child guitar or piano or maybe another instrument or maybe another language, having a language club in the forest. I think when parents travel with their children, they start thinking about education outside of the box. How can I teach myself? What can I facilitate for my child that is truly going to be rich, that remains living within them?
Mhm. And so, do you have a program already in place, like which uh, you help, people with special needs or children for different age groups? Would you like to talk a little more about the program?
Yeah, so I have a retreat this June where I have a group coming from Denmark. They're going to be four young adults traveling with two key workers. They are mainly Danish speaking. So, yes, of course, language might be a challenge, but then again, we're going to be communicating in a different way. So it's not necessarily, the language, between Danish and English. So that's going to be exciting. And the idea is to sort of set up these retreat weeks that are bespoke and tailor-made to the individuals. So yes, we're going to present, it's almost like a buffet of like, this is what you can do in terms of all the various excursions and going to see the bears and whatever, but there is not a pressure of schedule. And so there's an offering, the way the retreat is going to work on a day-to-day basis is that the night before, we discuss, firstly you discuss what you've done in the day, and then that night you say, okay, let's decide, how do we feel about going horse riding tomorrow and having a picnic in the forest with the horses? Are you up for that? Not up for that? Kind of up for that? You know, that kind of thing. And in discussion with actually one of the key workers 2 days ago, that was key what she was saying compared to different other other tours, that other tours there's this kind of hour to hour schedule in their daily lives. They have to go from the arrhythmia to the bakery, to go make bread, and then they have to go to this to do something else. And there's always this kind of schedule, which is quite draining on the energy.
So, do you also, with this community, do you have you already connected with these people like the bakers there and the horse riding people? So, are you like connected with those people? And so, when this program starts, they know that this is what is going to come next. Does it work like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've already made a contact with this one particular farm, and in fact, they're just building a jacuzzi outside, a massive jacuzzi at the moment, out in the landscape. And and I've already taken my stepson with him, to go and meet him, and have had time there. And it's actually, he is so sympathetic to what I'm trying to create, and knows that it's kind of last minute. Like, if I'm scheduling horse riding for 1 p.m. and then suddenly it's like, sorry, it's now has to be 2 p.m. because we've had a toilet accident on the way, or there's been a bit of a behavioral issue and we've needed to park up and just sing for a while. He's totally understands this. And because I mean, he's very animal oriented and he's very horse oriented, but also he's witnessed my stepson with the horse, and the two of them creating this connection where, for instance, my stepson, he doesn't hold the reins, he just sits on the horse, somehow connects with the horse, and then connects with the gait of the horse, and will walk with the horse, and just somehow the horse knows to just go in whatever direction, and no verbal cues, just the body, just his body and the horse's body. So that, yeah, the guy's witnessed this and he's totally on board.
I think that is great when, because with kids with special needs, if people understand them, I think they are at a different level altogether, right? Because they might be less irritant, and they might like feel less forced, because they might have a mood swing of not doing things, and I'm sure a lot of things like that happen, right? I'm sure you agree with this. You might have planned something and then things might not go as planned, and they might not just choose to do. And then, you know, and this kind of, liberty you might not have in traditional school, because they do not have the capacity, right? But in a space like this, where you welcome that kind of, changes, that whatever happened, I'm sure you would have witnessed all these things anyways. So have you seen kids behaving differently, like from your own personal experience, in closed traditional spaces, compared to when kids come and visit you? Have you witnessed something very different?
Absolutely. I think there is an element of this kind of dulling down. I've worked with kids in schools doing art sessions, and I mean, of course, I allow a bit of craziness, but there is always that kind of thing of needing to perform in a certain way. There's this kind of real dulling down of the almost of the persona of the child. And I think is what's welcomed in an outdoor space is like, let them have a bit of wild, have that kind of, not necessarily craziness, but it can be perceived as craziness from somebody who's not used to it. If we're climbing up a hill, and guys, does anybody feel like just screaming and going raw into the sky? Yeah, 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 great. Should we do it? Yeah, you know what I mean. You're not going to get that in a classroom.
Sure, they can't scream in the classroom. Or they'll have it nicely from the teachers. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the key the key point there is I think there's this dulling down of the child, in terms of needing to conform in a space. And sure, we all probably need to behave in a certain way, and you can't, maybe we're not supposed to be dancing in the queue at the airport before we get on the plane, but some of us do because we just want to.
I'm sure. And do you have people to help you around when you have more kids than you would have expected? Is there a possibility of young people to volunteer? Because I'm sure there is so much to learn from, right, in spaces like this.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I've just signed up now to the workaways and the WOOF programs just to come, help around generally, but also, looking for any young people who are interested, specifically working with special needs, um, young people and families. And then, of course, anybody who, in the community, the older kids the teenagers who want to come and help and hang out, definitely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And in your program, how many kids do you generally get from the local uh, place like Bansko compared to people traveling from different places?
I think last summer it was kind of half and half because there was enough of the homeschoolers that were coming who, reside in Bansko full time, and then there was the families that were moving through, and some of them were big families, with three kids, for some of them had five kids, and I would have them in the different sections, in the different workshops. So like last year there was the kind of gardening and craft and art sessions, and then on the Thursday there was like an under four creative kids, which is all the toddlers just having sensory art sessions with mums. And then in the afternoon I had the older kids when we were doing kind of more, bigger themes around creativity and expression and with art.
Mhm.
So it was, yeah, definitely about 50-50.
All right. And how do you get the word out about your program generally? How do people come to know about it?
I think it's helpful with word of mouth from other parents. I'm terrible at advertising myself. I've recently put together the whole website and doing the Facebook, and I'm trying to do create the events. But when it comes to the actual marketing, self-marketing, I'm not especially good at it. So I do rely on the organic growth and the word of mouth, and I think that's okay. I think, if people are coming based on somebody else's experience, yes, then that's the kind of people that I want because I know that they're going to be open to, for instance, all the kids climbing in the back of the camper van and saying, "Oh, let's go, kids! We all, all aboard! We're heading to the garden or whatever." And so I think there'll be parents that are like, "Okay, that crazy woman has driven off with our kids' children."
So it's generally friends and people that you know help you, and but
Yeah, yeah, parents come.
parents. And like consider this as a place where you could tell parents that how interesting it can be to join you and your program, and especially irrespective of they have a special need kid or not, but to be able to get that experience. What would you tell to parents who are traveling and visiting Bansko, or if they are seeking for a place like this, what would you like to tell to them?
I think for definitely connect with each other, before you arrive. I've just had a family who was connected. They got three kids, and I just said, like, here's some parents that you can connect with. Asked if I could connect them. Just I said, like, have a virtual cuppa. Grab a coffee, have a virtual chat, ask their questions. Is there enough for my kids to do? Is there a place where I can leave my kids for a couple of hours so I can have a break? There's some parents that are working online as well who do need to kind of, is there a opportunity for sharing the care of their kids? Can I work a couple of hours online and then we can swap our kids over? Or meetups. There's so many meetups that the parents do at the park and the eco park, different zones. But I think it's definitely, if they want information, then seek out on the Bansko families or the homeschooling, world schooling Facebook groups, and then to say anybody here available for a chat.
Mhm. Mhm.
They'll
So
be more than willing to oblige.
that would be great, right? If you could, especially if you could create a form, right, where parents who are interested could come and join in, and then you could just have 10 to 15 minutes question answering round where more parents would join, and that would be amazing because it would give them a glimpse of what they can expect. And I'm sure that a lot of parents don't know that such amazing things exist, right? So it will help them when more people are doing this and they start sharing about it. I'm sure that they will definitely benefit from this kind of program. And
Think
what
there's going to be a World Schooling Homeschooling Festival this July. I don't want to say the dates or who's organizing, just in case it doesn't happen. But I did, did hear that there was going to be something, a little family, nomad family of homeschool festival happening, and that would be an awesome event to attend if you're a homeschooler or world schooler traveling.
oh, this is this June, July, right?
Yeah, it's in July. You'll have to speak to Andreas.
Ah, all right, all right. I'm sure he'll know about it. So yeah, we will of course add all the details that Michelle, whatever you give me, so that more parents can reach out to you. Maybe whatever way you prefer, email or number, whatever you prefer to share. So that, or if you prefer, we could add a small form where people who are interested, right? They could just.
Anybody, homeschoolers or world schoolers who want to connect with myself or anybody in the Bansko families or the homeschooling family, for sure. But if they want to find out more about sort of village life or events up here, then definitely I'm definitely available to chat via WhatsApp or Messenger or virtual. It's always better face to face.
Yeah, it's so much better. Yeah. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being here and sharing so much about all the amazing things. It's kind of, it's very tempting to be there where you are, as always.
I wish we could have you here. I just, yeah.
I wish that so much myself. All right, Michelle,
Okay.
thank you for sharing. We'll get back to you again. All right,
Thank you so much for having me.
bye. Take care.